on it. Your name on it. Your name on it. God bless you.
This has been a week. And I have had to wrestle with quite a bit. Mother Rachel is a celebration. We will miss her greatly. Nice, long 87 years, which is a blessing. Her family has been blessed, and we have been blessed. And all those who encountered her has been blessed. She has gone to her rest. And so I'm excited about that. But even in the midst of celebration, there's also a tragedy of life. My nephew my brother's son, Rodney, committed suicide. And so, tragedy has hit us, but a tragedy that did not have to occur. See, on the one side, I'm celebrating a life well lived. On the flip side, one that was cut down at 30-something years of age and didn't have to be. And so I wrestled with that decision. And as a preacher, you always try to find answers. You always try to find something that will help you hold on to something when it seems like there's nothing to hold on to. And I tell y'all all the time that just because I'm a pastor, I'm not removed from tragedy or celebrations of life. And so this morning, there is a word from the Lord. And I need you guys to keep me lifted as I go through what God has given me. One of the things is, you always want to be careful with what you say, but I'm never careful with the word other than what the word is supposed to say. So understand that truth doesn't always make you feel good. That's why it's truth. And sometimes truth hurts, but it's the reality of what truth is. And so if you would turn to the book of Matthew, the 27th chapter, beginning at verse 3. Please stand when you have found it so that I know that you are there. If you reverence God's word, then you're able to stand. Stand. The 27th chapter of the book of Matthew, beginning at verse 3. Then Judas, which had betrayed him, when he saw that he was condemned, repented himself and brought again 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, I have sinned and that I have betrayed the innocent blood. And they said, what is that to us? See thou to that. And he cast down the pieces of silver in the temple and departed and went and hanged himself. My subject this morning is Judas Iscariot. Judas Iscariot. Father God, I pray now you lead me to the well. Lead me there until I'm done. You understand the magnitude of this assignment way more than I do. Give me your strength. Let me preach your word that others might hear and become doers of what they hear. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Judas Iscariot. Luke 22:3 says, then entered Satan into Judas, surnamed Iscariot, being of the number of the 12. And so while contemplating everything that I had to go through this week of emotions, I was told on Thursday that my nephew committed suicide. I was dealing with my brother, so that is a hard thing to tell someone. It's one thing to be in a car accident, to be ill, or to have been murdered. If those things occurred, I can understand being angry with God, because we know that God controls all things. Nothing goes in this world without him knowing it. And so God allows stuff, and we don't always understand why God allows it. But in this scenario, this is not God's doing. Life is precious. It is a gift from God. And in no way can we ever play God. And so I realized that if I can't be angry with God because this is not of God, then where should my anger lie? Well, on the one hand, I read in Luke that Satan entered Judas. So in other words, Judas was not of his own understanding. But in order for Satan to enter someone, they have to be playing in that realm. And I hear all the time, suicide, when you commit suicide, does that mean you're not going to heaven? Let me just tell you like this. Suicide is not a precursor of whether you go to heaven or not. You accepting Jesus Christ as your Lord and personal Savior is your only entrance into glory. And I don't have a heaven or hell to put anybody in. I don't know where he is. It's wonderful to say that I pray that he's in glory, because he had a church, he had a praying family. Amen. But I don't know. What I do know is that suicide in of itself is not a rejection. Check the record. When you look at the New Testament, there is only one suicide that's mentioned, and that's Judas Iscariot. But if you go back to the Old Testament, there are several instances where people of God committed suicide for whatever reason. But for this moment here and this topic here, and to teach and to tell you guys that it's not over until God says it's over. Storms come and storms go. I've never seen a storm, even when 9/11 occurred. Tragedy was in the air, right? Presidents have been assassinated. Dr. King assassinated. All types of atrocities happened throughout the years. But you know the one thing that was constant? The sun still rose. and set. The son didn't say, oh, my countenance is off. And I don't think I want to work anymore. Even when Jesus died on the cross, the Bible says that the sun refused to shine, but the reality is the sun was still shining. The problem is the clouds rolled in and covered it up. So what happened was the sun and the clouds was working in unison because they didn't want to see what creation had done to its creator. But this Judas, why in the world would someone who had 11 brothers in ministry, with 12 apostles, right? And Jesus, why is it that one found himself in a position to portray Jesus? How is that possible? I'm going to tell you how it's possible. Even in the midst of you walking with Jesus, there are times in your life when you disconnect. And when you disconnect, you allow the enemy the opportunity to slip in. Judas had 11 brothers who he could have went to and talked to about the doubts that he was having. But the funny part is that we never declare inside. We see Judas working within the brotherhood, but you never see a discussion of him at a point where, things are not well, and you don't see a conversation between him and Peter, him and James, you don't see any of those things. So even in the midst of a family, people still feel separated. But why would you feel separated when there is a circle that will support? Because Judas had been through, look, y'all, this man seen Jesus heal, deliver, get folk up from the dead, ate with him, laughed with him, cried with him. But yet somewhere in the midst of his mind, there was some doubt. You ever doubted somebody that's been with you the whole entire time because you feel like, I know you with me, but you ain't? And yet, I'm sure that Jesus reassured, if you ever need conversation, I'm here for you. See, one of the things that I wrestled with when I found out that my nephew had done this deed was I seen a podcast that he did a while back. And my intention has always been to call him again to talk to him and his sister, to kind of keep check up, right? Because I know we are a social media society, and what happens is we like to text and we feel like that covers, but there's no such thing as a emotional interaction in social media. I can type any kind of word I want, but it's something about hearing a voice. And so I said to myself, well, I'm going to call him. I'm going to call him. I need to talk to him. I want to continue to let him know that I'm always here for you. And I told him before, but, just because you tell somebody something years ago, it does not mean it's reinforced. And I understand that I mean, this is a young man who lived with me for a while, ate at my table. We played games together. We celebrated, we cried. I went to his wedding right before the whole world shut down. Only been married 3 years, y'all. 2 kids of his own, and then one that he ended up adopting. Blended families. So that's your child. I don't play this whole thing. This is my step. No, that's your child. That's your son. Don't let this world diminish the family just because you're not biological. If you are caring for someone, raising someone, loving someone, you are a father or a mother. It doesn't matter how you look at it. And so I'm thinking this thing through. Maybe it's my fault because I didn't make the call when I knew I wanted to make the call. But I know I'm going to September, so I'll see him in September, and we get the chance to physically meet with one another. That can't happen. He's gone. So I'm angry at myself. But then I had to be reminded I was a grown man. That was not my call. Not only that, he had a family. He had a circle that he could go to at any time in his life to hash things out with. See, I could see if he was alone or he was outside, he had nobody, nowhere to go, nothing to do. I can see you saying, well, I'm all by myself. It really don't matter. Judas had 11 brothers to go. Well, I'm going to say 12 because he had Jesus too. He had 12 men that he could talk to at any given time, but he wouldn't do it. Listen up, men. You're not meant to live alone. You're not meant to live life alone. That's why God gives you a family. That's why God gives you friends. That's why God gives you a church, because this life is not meant to be lived alone. Nobody can make it alone. Do you understand what I'm saying? The infant comes, and that infant doesn't get any love, any touch, anything. That infant will die before he reaches one. Why? Because we crave it. And so Judas had that kind of background, and he had the Creator with him, and he knew he was the Creator. But the Bible declares that at some moment, Satan was able to enter him, and God knew it was coming. Because even though he called him, he knew it was coming. But maybe he called him, listen to this, in hopes that he would change his heart. Because Jesus knows all. Maybe if you walk with me, if you talk with me, if you see the things I did, then you will get that wickedness out of your heart. Everybody that say, Lord, Lord, ain't on their way to heaven. Everybody that walk in the church don't have the mindset of learning and growing and being something in Christ. They just trying to be here for show. And so when real trouble hit, there's a tragedy in their own lives. What happens is they get mad with God. They get mad at the world instead of being mad at the problem, the issue. And then realizing that the issue sometimes is bigger than us. So instead of me being mad even at the issue, I'm going to lean on God. That's my faith. Judas did none of those things. And you wouldn't know the funny part about this whole thing? That not only did Judas not lean on his brothers that could have helped see him through the storm, he just figured I'd do it alone. Went and talked to the priest. That's the religious folk. They supposed to be able to help guide him too. But it was the religious leaders who was trying to kill Jesus, and they just needed somebody to hand him over. So what happened is that after he allowed Satan to enter him, once Satan is done with you, he exits you. And then you're left with the repercussions of you allowing the demon in. Then the problem is that once he leaves and now you feel empty, then you need something else to fill, and he comes back. See, he gets in you to get you excited about the things you are doing that are wrong. And once everybody leaves you because now your loved ones have put you aside, now all of a sudden you have this despair. Just hopelessness. And since you won't reach out, I told y'all he had 11 brothers left at this time because he had betrayed Jesus. Instead of him trying to reconcile, instead of him saying, my brothers, I've sinned, I've fallen, I know I shouldn't have done this, can you somehow find it in your heart to forgive me? That's not what he did. Because when you're hopeless and you have despair, you allow the enemy to come back in and magnify your depression, they like to call it now, right? Your mental illness, your health, these things that, so you are no longer in your right mind. These are your excuses as to why you failed, but the reality is, no. You won't seek the one that can help you. This young man had a sister who loved him like gold. A cousin, Austin, who loved, they were the three musketeers. They shared everything. They talked about everything, but maybe not about everything. He had fathers. My brother, his father, he had a mother who loved him. She posted her dance with him at the wedding and said, this is how I choose to remember my son. But this woman loved. And so I mourned for them. I grieve for them because this didn't have to be. Hold on. Trouble don't last. Always unless you let it, unless you allow it. Because you can't tell me he didn't have somebody he couldn't go to. Even if I didn't make the call, and that's why I had to absolve myself. I'm like, but he knew where I was. He knew where his family was. He knew. And so what happened is, if all these things happen and all these things new, and you don't seek out the help, it means you don't want it. I was listening to my brother preached a message last night, and he had a text from my nephew. He sent out a text to everybody that mattered something to him. And this was, I guess, delivered after the fact. And in the text, and I didn't even know, because I was thinking about all this even the whole week, that for him to do what he did, you realize it's a selfish act. And you haven't thought about everybody else, or you have thought about them and you don't care. That's a hard truth. For me to think that my loved one has done something that he knew would harm me, but he didn't care. Because it was about him, her, self. I'm hurting. I need to heal this hurt. Well, that's why we have a family. Stop trying to hide and hold stuff in as if you know how to figure this thing out when you know absolutely nothing. Except how to work together, how to be a team, how to be a part of something. That's why church is mediocre at best, because even in the church, everybody got a facade. Nobody's trying to really get personal. Nobody really trying to build a relationship. Nobody really wants to know you. Because if I know you, then I got to lose myself. Says who? Share with one another. So I'm thinking about this, and what my brother said was, in the text, his son said, Dad, this is my choice. I got a clear mind. I got a clear conscience. This is my choice. Judas betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. That was his choice. Then he had to deal with the consequences of his choice. My nephew has to deal with the consequences of his choice. Why? Because when you leave this life, you find out there is life after death. There's no do-overs. You can't say my bad and come back. It's final. It's finished. Because you played God. You made a decision. Now, in any part of that decision process, you would think that if the Holy Spirit is active in your life, and that's why I try to tell you that suicide in itself is not apart from being a Christian, because if you get that much hope, and I mean the hopelessness and despair, it's because you're not allowing the Holy Spirit to stand up in you. Because if the Holy Spirit won't stand up in you, the demon spirit will. Don't think they can't occupy the same space. That's why we fight and struggle right now, because on the one side, we want to love the Lord, but on the other side, we want to love this world. And so we keep teeter-tottering back and forth, trying to figure out who we going to serve. And see, it's hard to make an informed decision, because when he says it's his choice, what it tells me is that he is not tapped into the power of the Holy Spirit that he professed. Because there's no way, if I'm active in God, if I'm active in the Spirit, if I'm active in what I'm doing, if I'm leaning on my brothers and my sisters in Christ, and I'm not an island unto myself, when I get that much despair, I better be able to talk to somebody. And you can't tell me he couldn't talk to his mama. You can't tell me he couldn't talk to his family. You can't tell me this, because I know his family. Even if you struggle with them understanding, you keep talking. Why? Because the storm will pass. His mother is distraught. You didn't think that was going to happen? Your sons, that you were supposed to pick one up on the next day? Your sister who was your ride or die? Come on, y'all. And so everybody's angry, but is anybody angry at him? Now, I don't know how much pain you have to be in to get to a point where you take your own life. But I know many people have done it. Saul did it in the Old Testament. He fell on his own sword because he didn't want to be captured by the enemies, right? Ahithophel, one of the priests, he killed himself because Absalom, the new king, wasn't taking his advice. You understand what I'm saying? These are people who knew God. So don't think you are safe because you know him. You can't just know him. You have to have a relationship with him. Because when I'm at my weakest, when I'm at those moments, I need to lean on God or the people that he's put into my life. Why? Because right now I'm struggling. I can't find hope. I got despair. And if I don't find the right help, the wrong help will come. Judas tried to give the money back, tried to repent of it. No, I don't know what I did, but nobody that he talked to could help him. Why? They said, we wash our hands. That's on you. You know why? Because they leave you. After Satan's done, he leaves you. Then send a little demon back to help finish the thing off. The Bible declares that he went and he hung himself. He committed suicide. But had he just recalled what he learned under Jesus and weathered the storm, it was a storm, no doubt. But the reason why Jesus came was to redeem us from the storms. But he never got a chance to see it. Why? Because he quit. He gave up. But the reason why Jesus came was just for Judas. For moments like that, when you think like you've done so much that God don't love you, God don't care, he shows up. And then you realize, oh, it ain't that bad. See, I will never have a conversation. His mother will never hold him in her arms again. Not because someone else did it. We got to keep them lifted. It's not an easy thing. Young people, let me tell you, this life, y'all ain't built strong enough no more. You know, everything's social media. I see folks, people heads down, people be on phones and all that other kind of stuff. If you don't learn to disconnect from technology, you will disconnect from life. And as soon as things don't go your way, you're going to be in the same boat. Because you don't know how to live a life with turmoil, with trouble. Heck, and parents, we let you do it because we want to be friends. We want to be nice. Oh, they'll figure it out. No, they won't. They ain't figured it out by now. They ain't going to figure it out. And if you're a grown man and you still ain't figured it out, you're in trouble. I know I got a support system. I know I got help. Not only do I allow the Holy Spirit to reign within me, so even when hard truths come, I hear them. Why? Because God don't want me believing in a lie. He don't want me just trying to figure this thing out, as I go. I got men in my life. I got women in my life. I got God in my life. I got the Son in my life. I was on the water fishing yesterday with my son. It was always a blessing. I was on the water. I just finished reading my scriptures. I was paddling. It was like a little cloudy, overcover, rainy day. But I was just thinking on how wonderful life is. And how he will never get to experience that. He'll never get to see his sons grow up and do great things. He'll never be able to share his joys and stuff with his family because this young man was a great young man. He always smiling, very loving, a good soul. But somewhere he allowed Satan to come in and make a decision. Even my brother had asked him 2 weeks ago, was he feeling like that? He said, no, I'm not there. And if you see the podcast, it looks like he had overcome those things that were trying, because he helped a lot of people with that podcast. As he dealt with some of his issues as he was growing up, because sometimes people don't believe they're being heard. And sometimes in lives we don't hear everybody. But you got to keep knocking. I'm reminded of the man that came and kept knocking on the man's door trying to get in, and they didn't want to let him get in. He said, no, just keep knocking. Why? Because one day somebody going to open the door. You can never get tired of knocking. Knock. But you got to knock on the right doors, because the wrong door opens. So I'm on the water and I'm sitting there and I'm still able to enjoy life, because I know that the sun still rises and the sun still sets. And while I will grieve and I will cry and I will miss this young man, life goes on. The only difference is you're no longer here to enjoy it with us. If Judas had waited long enough, his storm would have passed. Why? Because he would have saw the resurrected Savior. And I know Jesus. And he would have said, rise and sin no more. Your sins are forgiven. What you meant for evil, God meant for good. And Judas would have been restored to the flock. And who knows, he may have had his own book in the word, but because he bailed, because he let his hopelessness and the despair take him over, we never see what he could have been. My nephew was full of promise, had multiple business. He was always about something, and now we will never know. Not by God's hands, not by some stranger's hands, not by some illness, not by something that he had no control over. He had full control. Judas had full control. But despair and hopelessness, he allowed it to take him over. Listen, y'all. Don't let it happen to you. If you need help, there are people who can help. If you don't have a strong enough support, start building it. I told you right now, when you come in here, you must first show yourself to be friendly. Why? Because I need a family around me. I need to know I can depend on others other than myself. When you come into church, come in to hear a word. Come in to grow. Come in to learn. And when you finish hearing it, go home and open up that Bible and say, Lord, help me understand what this preacher was saying. Help me to so I can turn my life around, so I can feel some of the stuff that he was feeling and what he was saying, because I too struggle with hopelessness and despair. And the Bible tells me, makes no difference what you're going through. That's why I had him sing that song. God can work out anything if we let him, if we love him. So I got to do a eulogy come Saturday. That's a homegoing celebration for Mother Rachel. I'll still probably cry because I loved her and I'll miss her. But I'm excited that she's free. But on the flip side, one day I pray I see my nephew again, be able to talk to him in glory and get an understanding. But I know where it's going to be. I didn't lean on my resources. I felt like I had to do it on my own. Stop letting the enemy deceive you that way. None of us have to do it alone. There are people who love you. Don't wait till your funeral to find that out. He's got his family, all types of love is pouring in. I'm like, man, if you could see this, you would not do what you have done. If you could see the grief that your mother is going through, your sister, your grandmother, all those whose lives you touched. That's why I love that It's a Wonderful Life. He thought, oh, George thought, man, nobody gonna miss me. Come to find out, a whole lot of folks wouldn't have been there because George was there. Every life matters. Your life matters. Everyone you touch matters. So touch them the right way. If you say you are a born again believer, act like it. Stop saying I'm saved, but yet you keep hanging with the world. Talking about, well, I ain't leaning on them, because if that's the Jesus they serve, then I can, yeah, okay. I don't want no part of that, Jesus. So we got roles we got to play. And so while I can't grieve over what I didn't do, I know I can do better now. Hard lesson to learn. Calls I need to make. And I'm not a phone person. But I need to let people know other than through a text that I'm here. If you need me, I'm here for you. I tell people all the time, my job as a pastor is 24/7. Call me anytime you want. I might not pick up anytime. But leave a message. I'll get back with you. If I haven't got back with you, call me again. Why? Because you got to keep knocking. When you need help, be persistent. And you let them know. Rev, I'm feeling it, man. I'm going through it. I don't know how you make it. I'm going to point them to the text. Yeah, but is that real? It's very real to me. Because God has done so much for me. I've seen him work. And if he works for me, he can work for you. He cares about you. How do I know? Because he called you into existence. You are not here because of your mother and your father. You are here because God signed off. Yeah, but I was a mistake. You a devil's lie. You ain't no mistake. I told you, don't nothing get past God's eyes. Be appreciative of what God has done for you. Even if you think about it, my nephew should have died a long time ago. He was in a major car accident, and he was in bad shape and critical condition. But God brought him through. God brought him through. I'm here for you, son. Just recognize that. But if you get the wrong people in your ear, and they be like, man, you sure are lucky, and you begin to believe that you are lucky versus blessed, and it be coming from saints of God. Man, you lucky. I'm like, lucky. You're blessed. Y'all right here now under the sound of my voice, you are blessed. Why? Because God got you up. Rev talking about he trying to get to 81. If he fortunate, he'll get there. He ready to go home. Okay, I'm ready to go home too, but not right now. I ain't trying to just check out. Why? Because life is to be lived. And I get it. I understand. When I talk about, men are not designed to be alone, that's his only problem. His baby is gone. And Scamp can only do but so much. And see, while we at home and we got our loved ones and we got our occupation, things are going on, all of a sudden, the phone call stops. That's why he called you that. That's why he called you. You know why? Because we crave it. Interaction, communication, relationship. That's what delivers us. And sometimes folk, we just type, we like, oh, there you go, Ray. It's going to be a long conversation. But you get up and you take that conversation. Why? Because you sacrifice for those who you love. Because Jesus sacrificed for those who he loved. So what my nephew should have done is sacrificed for those he loved. Because when you sacrifice long enough, the storm passes. I told y'all that when I was talking about Mother's Day, right? I told what's y'all primary objective is to sacrifice and suck it up. Stop crying about the situation. It ain't the way it's supposed to be. So what? You a mother. You didn't think everything was going to work out in your favor. You didn't think you were going to pop out kids and they were going to be all in line, did you? There's always a payback, child, because you was a mess. Sacrifice. Weather the storm. You got folks mad and angry at one another. Why? Life's too short. Suck it up. Sacrifice. Well, I ain't going to apologize. Apologize. Why? Because then you can move on with your life. In the meantime, the demons hold you locked down. And you see somebody, I don't want to say nothing. You done walked all the way around here when you could have walked a straight line, hugged somebody, and kept going. Build relationships. Love family. Love friends. Because any given moment, somebody could be gone. even at their own hands. And I miss them because I never got to have a chance to have that conversation. And I never will. And I don't want that to be the prevailing thought, though. I got some other folks I can call, people that I may need to make amends with. So I'm going to make those amends. And I'm going to sacrifice, even when I don't feel like being on the phone or the call, because I know some people when you call, they just like to talk. You know, they're talkers. You know, my mother was a talker. Miss Phyllis, y'all remember Miss Phyllis? She was a talker. Matter of fact, you like them when you need them. Because when I was coming from a long road trip, I would call her and she walked me all I got to do is say, mm-hmm. And they just keep on talking. Well, you made it in yet? I'm here. Okay. Well, God bless you, son. I am so grateful for those talkers, so don't trust me. Even Karen. Karen can go. But you know what? That's her love language. And so you got to be able to accept it. And when she says she's ready, then I say, all right, well, God bless you, sister. You know, I'm not, because why turn something off when life is so more, you understand? What I'm going to do? Nothing. If I ain't got nothing going on, I'm going to go back to whatever I was doing. Even if what I was doing, it can still wait until she finished. Even when my oldest son called me, he's a talker. And he ain't talked nothing before he left. But he living in this world now. He got a whole lot of conversation. You know, when you move out the house and you got bills, you got conversation. That's why Justin, he don't say much now. Y'all probably say, hey. Wait till he start living on his own, paying some real bills. Hey, look, let me talk to you, man. I understand. You understand what I'm saying? When you start living life, you get involved, you get engaged in stuff. Why? Because life makes you move. And it gets you to thinking. I need some help on this journey. So look, keep my family lifted, please. It's a tumultuous time because something transpired that didn't have to transpire. And he had folks he could go to. He just chose not to. Judas had people he could go to. He just chose not to. And then once you choose not to, then you get overwhelmed by your grief and your despair, and you feel like there's no other way. And you do the unthinkable. You end this life. You play God when you're not God. I'll even take it a step further, and I'll step on some other toes. But for those who are always crying out for pro-choice and pro-life, if you sit there and you get impregnated by someone and you end their life because you're not ready, you don't make this sacrifice, you're saying you're God because you didn't create the life. People keep saying, well, no, you didn't create it. God created it. The Bible says, I carefully knit and put you together inside your mother's womb. Not only that I told you that, no one comes without God signing off. And they say, Rev, but there's different circumstances. No, I'm not God. I'm not here to argue with anybody. But God knows the circumstances. He knows the circumstances. If he allows you to stay, there's a purpose for that life. If it's even through a tragic situation, there's a purpose for that tragic situation. We don't understand it because our minds can't be wrapped around what God knows. But I'm just saying, if you ever find yourself in a position, just understand that it was not by chance. But this is the first time I ever laid down this way. It's not by chance. But I'm not ready. And then let somebody adopt. You know, and I get it. There's a lot of children that come and they get no care whatsoever, and it's rampant now. But that's all because we still refuse to follow Christ. So there's a whole lot of us mixed up in it. I can't tell you what to do with your bodies and stuff. And people say, well, it's my body. Well, you had a choice before you laid down, right? That was your choice. But once you involve me, then now there should be my choice. Why? Because you wouldn't have it if I had not. You can't make a baby by yourself. And I can't do it even unless God co-signs the situation. So this life that God has given us, I need you to understand it's valuable. Even if you're not where you want to be in life, it's valuable. Take care of it. It's precious. Our bodies, our health, take care of it. It's precious. But this life is precious. That's why I ain't have much to say earlier. I've had a lot to say now. Probably hard to shut up right now. But I want you to understand, because you're here for a reason. You're not here by chance. God is speaking to you. A situation you may know of, or maybe your own situation. Somebody you need to reach out to, somebody you need to call, somebody that you need to show love and not a text. Because they are hurting out there. My nephew was hurting, but he didn't let nobody in to help him. Judas was hurting, but he let nobody in to help him. We need help, y'all. Not social media. Because social media is a lie. If you look at my nephew's social media account, he had a wonderful life going. Everything was great. Then why do we have what we have? Because people act like they somebody they not. Marriages look all perfect, but they not. Don't believe everything you see. But your life is valuable. You got to decide how you're going to live it. It's your choice. I'm trying to reach your family that's left now. Because some people, because of what you've done, they can't pick up the pieces. Why? Because they don't even understand the faith. Especially those who don't know nothing about Jesus. Live your life the right way. If you profess Jesus as Savior, act like it. Hang around the right people, build the right circle, so that when you're in trouble, you can go to them and they're not going to put your business all on blast. That's men's problem, right? We don't want to tell nobody nothing because we don't want our stuff everywhere because we don't trust who we hanging out with. So why are you hanging out with them? Same thing with you women. Oh, don't tell nobody, don't tell nobody. Girl, guess what I just heard? Now, don't you tell nobody. How many times y'all gonna say don't tell nobody? And now the whole church knows, so when she walking in like, don't say nothing. See, that's why I don't come to y'all fool with y'all church folk. All y'all do is talk and gossip and all that stuff, and you supposed to be reading the Bible. Tell the truth. Shame the devil. That's my grandma said, tell the truth, shame the devil, boy. All right, I did it. Man, come on, get this whooping. That's why I didn't want to tell you I did it. Look, I love y'all. I don't want nothing to happen to any of y'all. Things will happen, though, in life. You know, and Mother Rachel, you didn't expect her to live forever, did you? And that's what we do. But we also know that's not the reality. She told me she was going to be 100. She said, Rev, I ain't leaving you. No, I said, Mother Rachel, you are not. She said, I am not leaving you, Rev. I said, okay. I said, you're going to be a little dried up prune raisin over there in that corner. Be one of the real California raisins. But she tried to stay as long as she could. You know, but none of us are going to last forever. And we don't know the day, the time, the place, nor the hour. But I can tell you this. I pray I never get into a position where I want to take my own life. And if I do, I pray I got folks I can reach out to, because I'm not telling you that I'm not suicidal. And I'm going to close with this. Just because you don't physically do it, and I preached a message on this called Secret Suicide. We don't do it intentionally, but we do it unintentionally. We check out of this life, even when it comes to our health. If the doctor say, you know, if you don't lose this weight, you're going to end up dying. And what do? Keep on eating. Why? Because we got issues. We got problems. Oh, so God can't handle your issues and problems, and fried chicken can, Popeyes can, KFC can, macaroni and cheese collard greens, they can, that stuff gonna fix it, right? No, that stuff will get you quick in the box real quick. And you talking about, well, I ain't commit suicide. You didn't, because you was told. Your body is the temple. Take care of it. That's why I've been on my journey, on my job, trying to get this thing done, because I don't mind dying. Don't get me wrong. I know where I'm I know where I'm going. I don't mind. I just ain't trying to die at my own hand. You know, and I can keep my hand from going into my mouth. I don't need peach cobbler and ice cream every day. I don't need cake after every meal. I don't need I don't need all that stuff. And so I remove those things. Why? Because I want to appreciate the life that God gave me. I got enough aches and pains. I don't need to add to it by adding to my stress. So I don't need to smoke. I don't need to drink. I don't need to do these things to sit there and figure out what's going on in my life. I do need his word. I will smoke that. That's right. So live your lives, but live it as God has called you to live it. And just know, I love you. Pray for my family. Pray for the Ferguson family. And pray for all those who have lost loved ones and all those who have people sick. I know Claudette is sick. We didn't expect it to be that long, but keep them lifted in prayer. God has a timetable, not us. You know, and then when our loved ones go through those tragedies, reach out. That's why I love my bereavement committee. Karen, I don't know if you hear it enough, but Karen, I'm glad she's a talker. Because when those people need her after, because see, most people are there for you during the funeral. She comes in even after it and checks on you and see how you're doing. The whole, the bereavement committee, they have a wonderful work and a wonderful ministry because they remember to reach out when everybody else has forgotten. And not because they didn't love the person, they just got life. Life happens and you haven't made the call. And that's what happened to me. I didn't make the call, and I should have made the call. So now I told my wife, I said, now when the Lord say make this call, I'm calling them up. Judas, had he waited long enough, would have seen the resurrected Savior. The storm would have passed and he would have been reconciled back to God, because God has a forgiving spirit. He came because of our sins. That was the sin of Judas, and God could have covered it. I don't know what's going on in my young nephew's life, but if he had just weathered the storm, I'd be able to talk to him when I got down there in September, and we can continue to laugh and grow and have fun and all those things. Why? Because it was not his time. He made a decision. He made a choice. Don't let us do the same. Lean on him. So let me ask you this. If you've never accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and personal Savior, and you need him, we invite you to come. There's no greater time than accepting him today. Why? Because tomorrow is not promised. You may not commit suicide, but it don't mean you're going to make it out of this day. That's the reality of why he died on the cross. We've all fallen short of the glory of God. We've all sinned. We've all made mistakes, but God still loves us. Man might not like your sin or love your sin, but God can cover that sin. And man, I look at you funny, but God will give you a new crew. People with a forgiving spirit, a forgiving heart, a redemptive family. And say, I know what your past was, but that's not who you are now. That's what salvation does. Let us stand. Social media can be helpful if we put the right stuff on it. Because social media really isn't the problem. It's the people who use social media that's the problem. I told Kim before she left, I want to see her. She had something about some pineapple and ginger tea. I'm like, let's talk about that. Anything I can help to get me a little more healthier. So there are good things out there. We put our stuff on the social media. Why? So that you can hear the sermons over and over again. You can get refreshers. Because you can't get it all in one day. And sometimes, I know some of y'all nodded today, you missed something in between your nap. And you can go back and hear it. Oh, that's what I missed. Oh, I'm glad he pre-recorded that. Because if you slept and you missed it, you just missed it. Right? So social media can be good if we use it the right way. I try my best in everything I do, from my fishing to my music to my ministry. I try to make sure that whatever I put on social media is acceptable and edible for all consumption. It's to help, it's to build, it's to encourage, it's to lift. You will never hear me saying stuff that will tear people down. Why? Because that's not who Christ was. That's the enemy. Amen? Amen. If you all are sure that you're on your way to glory, then may God bless you and may God keep you. But if you're not, just know he's waiting for you. He's knocking at the door. If you're going through some stuff you feel like you can't handle and you can't control, you can. He said, bring your burdens unto me. I can handle everything that you can't handle. If you do those things, life will be well.